PreCouncil meeting, February 11, 2014. Call to order and pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Camello did report that he would not be here. Mrs. Coates.
Here.
Ms. Heffley also said maybe, so she did communicate, not here at this time. Mr. Helbling.
Here.
Mr. Lenard.
Here.
Mr. Minoski. Here. Mr. Siziani. Here. Mr. Senvisky. Mrs. Washner.
Here.
Mayor Kuzik.
Here.
Solicitor Rakunas.
Here.
For the record, DAS Borchek's also here, and Engineer John Rusnak. We have a quorum.
Okay, this is the time for public contributions. Would anybody like to speak? Jane.
Real quick, two things I noticed on the agenda. The CBC is back on the agenda. And being one of the few people, council people that went to the RFPs back in 2011, I don't know if okay, the second one then, I'll go back really fast. I noticed that they want to do parking, charging for parking on Saturdays again. I would really recommend you not do that. Just to help the business districts out. I've been still promoting that every time I go through Bellevue, that we have free parking on the weekends and evenings. I can't see any reason why that would help anything. You'd have to have somebody ticketing, so you'd have to hire an employee, and then, how's that going to help the businesses? They really need to promote the free parking on Saturdays. Okay, the other one was being one of the PreCouncil people that actually was at the RFPs for the streetscape engineers. I don't want to go back and forth with he said, she said, or who did what who, but at this point, it's going to be it's a new contract. It's not taking us back anywhere, and for $25,000, this council who wants to look forward and move forward should really reconsider putting that out there. Keep Saturdays free.
Thank you. Anybody else? Colin.
Connie Rankin, Orange Avenue. Let me just preface everything by saying, number one, I don't really care what company gets the design work for the second phase of the streetscape. I do not believe I am not aware of there being any problems with the quality of the actual work performed by Brad or CEC. I have heard nothing to that whatsoever. My comments last month pretty much were to the effect, and I will repeat them, that we need to make sure we're getting the best price. And if you've read my blog, you will see that I have taken both Ben Allen and Emsworth to task for the same thing, is that you don't go around handing out thousands of dollars in anything without making sure you're getting the best price. The other thing was to make it very simple. Stop all of this. It was your fault, it was your fault, it was your fault. Stop that by putting penalty clauses into the contract for anybody who causes the delay. That way, neither the borough nor the company will be inclined to hold things up. They've got money on the line, a financial penalty. This is done in contracts all the time. It'd be very easy for the solicitor to insert that. Those are the only two concerns I had. Like I said, I have no knowledge of any problems with the quality of CEC's work. I'm sure they're perfectly capable of doing it. I did have concerns about the process that was involved last year. Now, to that end, I think that we need some clarification here, because Kathy, I did read your timeline.
Where did you get
It's a public document.
that? No.
Yes, it is. If you email it to everybody on council, and it's not about a privileged topic, it's a public document.
Well, I emailed it to the council, but I didn't know if you were publicly getting it before this evening.
Well, the public's entitled to see it. Absolutely. In any case, there were a number of problems with that, and I think once again we're getting back into the blame game. But let me just start from the Business District Advisory Committee, that we call BDAC, for some of you news people. What this was an organization of people that was required under the Allegheny Together program to do whatever we were going to do with the business district, the streetscape among those projects. There were no official members of this organization. Anybody who wanted to show up was a member. What there were 4 chairs. There was an organizational chair, there was a community life chair, an architecture and design chair, and a business development chair. At the time that Mrs. Washner asked me to step into the position as the organizational chair, Jack Williams was the architectural and design chair, Amy Robinson was the community life chair. Both of those people remained in those positions. No one was discharged except with the new administration. Kathy had been acting as the organizational chair until somebody else could be found. My understanding was that periodically there was a Kilbuck resident who has been out in business who was filling in as the business development chair. I asked the Bellevue resident who owns a business to take that seat. But anybody who wanted to show up was perfectly willing and they could be part of it. I fully believed when I took over BDAC that the streetscape would be one of our major projects and that we would have a lot of input on that. Instead, whether it was Jack Williams, whether it was Brad Hazelwood, I don't know who it was, but they put together a separate committee of 4 or 5 people. However, I think we were all CC'd on the different emails and what was going on. In April of 2012, we all received an email saying, you talked about the aerial mapping in here. As of April of 2012, we received an email saying that the aerial mapping had not yet been done. And as a matter of fact, if you all look back in your minutes, CEC came back to council, wanted to do some different or more extensive mapping, asked for more money, and council gave it to them. The committee that they put together, whoever it was who put it together, because it wasn't BDAC, did not meet until June. The plan that was presented to council in September, in the very first email that Brad put out, in his very first conversation with all of us, he said, by the end of September, we should have documents ready to go out to bed. What's the matter, Kathy? I'm saying something, you don't want people to hear this.
You went over 5 minutes, and we've been very strict on that.
Excuse me, that's up to the president to control the meeting. Well, maybe Kathy wants to tell him what to do.
No, the solicitor looked over and said 5 minutes, and I said 5 minutes, so.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'm just saying that when this committee, that we were told that bid documents would be ready to go out in the middle of September. By August, we were already contacting the county to get a new schedule for design because that deadline was not going to be met. I don't know why it wasn't going to be met, except for there were a lot of problems getting that streetscape group together. There was a preliminary plan, not the master plan, not the final plan, nothing, presented in September. And another area where we're incorrect in here is that the streetscape committee continued to meet until December. I've got meeting notices from them through December. And it wasn't until after the first of the year that I finally pulled everybody together at a BDAC meeting and said, we are going to settle this once and for all so this can get done and we don't lose these grant funds. And we sat here, you were there, Cal was there, Lynn was there, we sat here for hours. I then went to the Public Works Committee and I said to you, we just sat for hours, we've got a consensus, this is how the plan needs to be changed. Apparently that information was never relayed to CEC. So I do think the borough bears some responsibility here. But all I'm saying is, back to the beginning, good business. Make sure you're getting the best price, work the penalty clauses into the contract for both parties. We don't have a problem.
Brad Eastwood, 117 Woodlawn Avenue. I just need to make a comment on a number of the public accusations that were made last meeting. Not hitting goals, not hitting deadlines, meetings, project goals, and even not even providing drawings, which it's kind of hard that I didn't provide drawings when we bid the project out. So these drawings, there are two drawings. One was dated April 19th, and that was after the whole process went of 2013. Another one on October 7th, which was the final bid document set in October. And I've been told time and time again that these drawings were never submitted. There's a copy downstairs, there's a copy in the COG office, and there's a copy in the county. So anyone that wants to look at them has full access to them, and have had full access to them. As far as, and I'm not going into a whole lot of detail on this, I don't think it's worth it. But as far as the 9 months, what I do is this is typically a year project, if not slightly more. Once you get into the public and gather the public input, there's obviously delays. You have the Christmas holiday. There's a lot of things that factor into that, the holiday season, meetings, and all that stuff. So what I do in the proposals, in my effort to try to push this forward, is to say 9 months. Obviously that can change. I mean, if you talk to anyone that deals with public process and public projects, we've worked on projects in the city that have taken over 2 years in the public process, and those are large hotels. So this happens all the time. The idea is we want to move forward and always try to move forward. As far as financial losses here, I've personally had a lot of financial losses as far as time that I've done. When you look at consulting fees, and a project like this, it's based on a grant. There's a chunk of money and that's it. Okay, so there's no incentive for me to delay the project. If it takes me 100 hours to do it, I'm going to make a lot more than it does if it takes me 200 hours to do it. So there is financial incentive, and when this goes over that length, yes, I lose money. And as far as the area mapping, that was something to give as an incentive, or as something that we can look forward to, and this is all public in all these meeting notes and stuff. This is not a delay tactic at all. This was in my scope. It basically said that I would use existing information that was readily available. I took the opportunity to say, we have the opportunity to go out and get a new flight that has that was 6 or 8 year old information. We had the opportunity to get upfront new information, which I know we worked together and we got the park and everything is all in this flight that we can use in the future. So that was a benefit. That was a cost of about $2,300, and the additional that I asked the county or the borough for was $975. So there was no, it was definitely I took most of the cost on for that too. So there's definitely some financial losses on my side as well. I'm not even going to get into it. My reputation speaks for itself. If you ask anyone, if you talk to anyone, I go out and do it. Please talk to any clients, anyone that I've worked with, and you'll see where I come from. I'm not here to point fingers. That doesn't get anything done. But I do have to say I need the finger unpointed at myself. If you look at what happened, we had a change in council, we had a change in BDAG leadership, we had no manager for a period of time, we had a temporary manager for a period of time, and then we had a new manager. Those are things that just happen. I'm not gonna say that it was anyone's fault. Let's just move forward. I mean, that's what it comes down to. And we have an opportunity to do that. And there's financial incentives as if we get this project done, and talking with the COG, the intent is to get it out to bid by the end of March, which can still be done if everyone works together for that. And the idea there is that we would see, well, hopefully we would see benefits of actually constructing 2 phases at one time. Also, the benefits are construction interruptions. If we do both phases at one time, we're going to have maybe a longer period of construction, but we're not going to break it up and have construction 1 month and then 3 or 4 months we tear up the road again. So the idea is to make this efficient and in the best interest of the community. And also with our funding sources, if we can get 2 construction projects done by the summer, again, that's the intent. Things happen, construction delays happen, but that's the idea, that we have to have a goal, that's what our goal is to do. We need to work to that. And we can definitely do that, and that would say a lot for the funding sources. So, basically in the end, I don't appreciate some of these accusations based on not true facts, and actually no documentation to back it up, nor does the management of CPC. So, I'm just here. I want to move forward, and I hope everyone else does as well.
Anybody else? Okay, I think, Brad, when we get to that subject, I want to ask you a few questions with that, so we'll actually back up. Next is a review of prior meeting minutes.
I was able to put the meeting minutes for the reorganization on your desk. There are others in the process, not ready for the meeting, but I suggest we just move this item to the regular meeting. So you just got to finish up today.
Okay. We need a motion to approve payment of the February bill list. So, there's a motion to move.
Shouldn't that be council?
The whole purpose for bringing this up, if I may, Mr. President, is unfortunately the flipping of our meetings I've almost got to ask council to address this at the pre-council meeting so that we can make payments in the early part of the month. Pushing the council meeting to the 4th week kind of delays our payment process. So I asked Ann to submit what she has. Hopefully council will approve that, and then we'll bring any changes. We'll probably have to address it twice, because I don't want vendors to suffer or us to incur costs by delaying it because of our meeting schedule. So I hope that's clear to everyone.
Well, it's been moved and seconded. Is your discussion on? No? Okay. Okay, all those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Nays? Motion passed.
Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Roll call. All right. All right. Mrs. Coder.
Aye.
Mr. Hellman.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard. Aye. Mr. Minoski. Aye. Mr. Suzie Manning.
Aye.
Mrs. Washner.
Aye.
Mr. Sandusky. Motion carries.
Okay, next we have reports. Mayor?
Yes, I have just 2 things. You have in your packet a report, financial report. Total collections were $10,405.73. I don't know if everybody got a copy. If not, because we just got this information today. So if not, it's in with your minutes in the section that had that green thing on there. If you didn't get it, then we'll ask that it be given to you tomorrow. Second thing, I'd like to recognize the DPW, especially Joe Wright and the NPAS, for their work over the last week with all this ice and snow. I've had many comments outside of how well it was done, the streets were done, and this past week they started getting on the curbs and the crosswalks and things. And the other thing was they had the foresight to make sure that we had enough salt. A lot of communities are out of it, because they ordered early and kept on top of it, we were in good shape. So I'd just like to thank them for their efforts.
Thank you. Okay, anything to say about the treasurer position or report?
Nothing about the treasurer position. There is a treasurer's report in your packet that we sent out today with the green tab on it. Again, we'll do a little more explanation at the end of the month of it because you might be where the cash is so far.
Tax collections?
I don't believe that's what that, I don't think there's even anything there.
Okay, administration.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two things on your agenda, 2 and 3, that I want to address that are contained. First, the Boiler and Fire Department had another semi-breakdown. I just wanted to keep council on top of it. We're really experiencing a lot of problem with that. We've already talked about a plan to replace that for next winter. I've already been in contact with the volunteer fire chief, who said they've got some ideas and they're willing to help us out. We'll be scheduling a meeting before the end of the month. Second is the Quaker Valley Cop Recycle Day, May 10th, 2014. That will go from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Ongoing plans to do that, so just keep it on your calendar. Third item, Public Works Summer Help. We talked about it at the committee level. I don't know if I need a motion to go ahead and advertise it. I'd like to start that process so that we can begin screening applicants. I think if we can, after my report, if we could get a motion, but I'll go on to the other items first. Next, we did finally sell the old fire truck that had been accumulating rust in Public Works. We got $2,566.20 for it. We will incur a $300 towing bill. We couldn't get it out very easily. We also went through Public Works during some of the colder days and grabbed a whole bunch of, there was an old salt spreader, and there were a couple of old air machines that had basically rusted off their stilts, and we just went through and cleared a lot of the stuff that was not going to be used and had it scrapped. Just want to give you a heads up in case you walk in and see a little more room in the Public Works. Last item before I ask council to please give a motion is the salt. Mayor took most of my fire away, but we are now at the point where we have reached 140% of our budgeted consumption. So we're now paying $81.62 per ton. We have approximately 400 ton on order, which in a normal winter should get us through the winter. We have been aggressive about ordering, and because while we're getting orders slower like everyone else, we still have enough supply to get us through about 2 nice storms. So if we get hit with 2 back-to-backers, we're going to be suffering like everyone else. We've been getting about 1 load, which is 20 ton, to 2 loads, 40 ton a week. And it just seems like the suppliers are spreading out to everyone they can. The state's getting their salt, their first priority. Municipalities are getting the short version. We're probably good for the next 2 to 3 weeks of normal winter. Come the end of February, we'll sit down and talk about how we're going to manage our inventory downward. Normally we manage it upward to take advantage of pricing. In this case, we want to have as little as we can at the end of the winter and buy at the new project because we'll save $20 a ton. So that hopefully gives you an idea of what's going on. So if we could back up at this point, Mr. President, I would ask for a motion to permit me to advertise for summer Public Works stuff.
Someone like to make that motion?
I'd like to make a motion to advertise for the DPW summer help. Do we need to put in there the cost of the advertising and put it in? Okay.
Second.
It's been moved and advertised to advertise for the summer help. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nays? Motion carried.
Thank you. That concludes my report.
Roll call on that.
Okay, we'll do a roll call. Mrs. Washington.
Aye.
Mr. Sinvisky. Mr. Siziani.
Aye.
Mr. Manoski. Mr. Helbling.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mrs. Coder.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, next is the engineer, John Lessner. Hello.
Thank you. With respect to the report that you have in front of you, some good news to report if you've been reading the papers lately. You've gotten some mixed news with respect to the EPA and the Department of Justice and the Alcosan consent decree. The EPA and the Department of Justice have basically accepted the Alcosan's request to negotiate portions of the consent decree, which is going to, in the long term, I think, help everybody out with respect to rates and the potential for adding more green infrastructure rather than building that mean for Bellevue? It just means that you should pay attention to what's going on and what decisions they make, because this could be a two-edged sword. The decisions that Alcosan makes does affect the 83 communities contributing to it. I would just say that if there's any questions that you have regarding any of this new discussion that Alcosan is going to have, that you should bring them up, and if you would like, I could take them to the meetings that I go to. Ms. Coder goes to these meetings as well, the Three Rivers Wet Weather Ends. Anybody else who's interested in going to these meetings that they have occasionally, they have public meetings for all members of councils that are affected. I would recommend that you get on the website and find out when those are so that you can have your input. But it's generally good news. We'll see how this works out. Alcosan still has not negotiated the changes with the Department of Justice yet, although they said it was supposed to be on an expedited time frame. They gave it a month. I'll be really interested to see whether or not they can do that in a month. So that's the good news. Well, it's all really good news, to be honest. One of the things that we were asked to do last year was to pay attention to the Bain Park Phase 2 project, and at the at the Parks and Rec Committee meeting, we have submitted a proposal for your consideration to take the DCNR grant project from start to completion. And I believe, I don't know whether everybody has that proposal in front of you, but that proposal's been submitted, and at some point, the council will need to make a decision to move forward on the design. The good news with this project is it will last the better part of 2 years, because the contract grant deadline is December of 2015. So in the proposal, there is a schedule of the work that needs to be done with milestones there, and the costs associated with that as well. So I don't know whether you all had an opportunity to look at that. Are there any questions on that? So, if not, you can always email me or through the DAS, ask some questions, and I'll be able to answer it. I would expect that the council meeting you'll be able to discuss it a little bit more and maybe make a decision on that. We submitted the Chapter 94 Waste Load Management report today to Alcosan. Every year, every community that contributes to Alcosan, regardless of its size and its makeup, has to provide a portion of what they call the Chapter 94 or Waste Load Management report, just to report how much sewage that you're generating from the community, whether or not you've had any overflows, how that's affected the community in the past, and to give Alcosan an idea of anything that has been built over the last year. Not a whole lot of building goes on in Bellevue. We've completed a lot of the work with respect to looking at the sewer lines. So the good news with that report is that there was no bad news to report. So everything's operating as it should, and it's all flowing downhill. Okay. I guess, Ron, if you, we had some discussion on the West Bellevue Station project, and I understand that FEMA is now going to reimburse the borough for its expenses for the storms that it claimed.
That is correct, if I may, Mr. President. I did finally get documentation. I reported at the last meeting. FEMA has gotten all the paperwork to reimburse us a little over $17,000 of expenses incurred during the July rain event that washed out a good portion of the drainage at West Bellevue Station. I completed also the paperwork for the state last week, which basically you folks designated me to do. Normally with a FEMA, with a federal project, you're reimbursed 75% of the amount. Governor Corbett agreed through the state to reimburse the other 25%, so we will get 100% reimbursement on that. Everything is now in the hands of the federal government and the state government, and I expect distribution later on in the spring of the money.
Thank you. And once the weather breaks, we will be taking another look at the West Bellevue Station area with respect to stormwater management to ensure that the permanent fixes recommended to the borough this point in time, the weather's really stopping us from going down there and making a lot of investigations. So I would expect in the March, April timeframe, we'll have more information to report to council on that. Last but not least, with respect to the 2013 sewer project, we met with the contractor and came to a meeting of the minds with respect to what needs to be done by him and how much it's going to cost him to do that, make those fixes. The borough had been holding off giving this contractor more work until we were satisfied with the fix down on North Sprague Avenue with respect to those sewers. So we're going to be seeing some information from the contractor, and once that information comes in, we'll report to the council on that, and then we will complete that project as weather permits. So that was good news. They are going to be making repairs. I don't believe they're going to be asking for any more money because of the way the pluses and minuses are working out, but they have yet to submit that final number to us. But we did have the meeting, and everything is looking like it's moving in a positive direction. So with that, that's basically all I have to. Does anybody have any questions?
I do.
I have a question. You're showing a motion here for the design bid in the amount of $20,000. Is it, well, maybe you can answer this. We need this motion this evening because...
We do not need, I don't know, we do not, I just want to put that on there.
Okay, because I'm showing a meeting of 3:25 on the schedule.
Say that again, 3:25?
The date that I'm looking at is March 25th meeting for this month.
Yes,
Or do you need it now?
No, you don't need it now. That proposal's in front of you for discussion and review. I would say that at the latest, the March meeting, we should decide one way or the other. That way we can keep within the schedule that we set. So no, there's no need to make a decision now. If you wish to make a decision at a regular council meeting, that's up to you, but we have until, say, the end of March to actually, before we start getting into that tightness of the schedule.
That last project you were talking about, what was that about?
The 2013 sewer project?
Yeah.
We had an issue with the contractor where there was some, I would say, deficient lines, and that when they put the lining in, they have to go back and televise it again. And when they showed us the televised results of the new line, we did not accept that work. We then sort of went back and forth with them and said, you need to fix this, or you need to come and talk to us about why it's broken and how you're going to address it. They did. We had a meeting in the DAS's office, and we're moving forward with that fix, and we're also moving forward to getting them up to the contract value. As of this time, I think we're still $50,000 under the contract value. So we were holding off until such time as that item was addressed. So they're not done, and we expect to have it done once this item is addressed.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Kathy, is there something you want to talk about for me? You were out at
Well, no, I'm on the regional sewer board. They just put this form together, and we're going to be looking at some ways to work without the sand, that we may have the opportunity to work with maybe 3 communities to perhaps reduction and costs for the borough. But we're in the beginning stages. They're hoping to have everything done by this year. And there's a legal committee. There's different committees that are working on this.
Okay, next to the library. Denise, would you like to speak?
Sure.
Please.
Things are going fine at the library. We're just doing our normal January stuff, which isn't a lot of programming or anything, because people don't come because it's snowy. But much to my library closes at 6, so, you know, we'll have a place for ourselves.
What's the adults of the activity?
Well, now, that's to be determined by the committee,
Figured I better ask.
but, it won't be anything racy or anything. You know. It'll be legal, but, you know, everything in the library land is a lot of, most everything's like child-oriented. It's nice to have some stuff that's just adults, so,
I hear you.
yeah.
Jen, maybe you talk about that program on Saturday. Would you mind letting everyone know what type it was and who on your staff actually put it on?
Oh, yes. Well, we had a generous donation by an anonymous patron who gave me a couple $1,000. So I bought a new big screen TV and put up on the wall. CPW did, which was great. And so Diane Ruse and Cheryl Pasalerno came up with the idea of having a toddler drive-in theater. So kids 2 to 4 brought a box and they decorated the box, and then they got some bean box, and they got some goldfish and juice that they could buy with a bean box, and they all sat in their little cars and watched, you know, a couple of movies that were based on books, so it was really cute. There's 22 kids that showed up, which was a lot for this time of year. Yeah, so it was really successful. Way to go.
Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah, that's nice.
It was great, you know, and, you know, the staff was just like way into it. It was pretty low intensity, but really appreciated the folks.
Good.
So, see everybody on Thursday, right?
Yeah. Creative mind.
Yes.
Thank you, Dave. Next, are these motions going to be waiting until next?
Actually, if I could take the next one. I received an email from the Three Rivers Wet Weather asking me to revise our contact list, which still had people that were probably 2 elections ago. I revised it with the exception of it had former Councilwoman Brunwick as the Three Rivers Wet Weather Basin Group representative with no alternate. If council wishes, I really would like to get this motion to designate a new Three Rivers Wet Weather delegate and alternate so that I can get the information to them and they can upgrade their records. Because, you know, Mrs. Coder's serving. I think there's actually some grant programs we might be eligible for moving forward. I'd really like to get this clerical stuff together if we can do it.
So it will already be Kathy's, you're saying?
I'm not sure. It can be Kathy, but I mean, I've served on the board as well as a special committee. I don't know, that would depend on her workload.
I'm on the board of Three Rivers Wet Weather, so I believe this is another where people come from communities.
Yeah,
And I think it's an extra meeting, so I would rather not be on this, and then, could you do it? Is that what you're saying?
I would rather be the alternate. I think we
Okay,
need
and then
council.
someone
I
from
think we need
council needs to be on
involved.
it, because I already have enough meetings and I'm already part of the board.
Yeah, I understand. So I could, if we make this motion, can I decide tomorrow or take anybody that wants to do it? Or can make the motion to designate, but then have till tomorrow to make that decision? So I'd like to do it.
Might I suggest we just check and see, I see someone raising their
Well,
hand.
my question would be, do we know, like, schedule when the meetings would be?
Yeah, I'd like to get that information for you before.
All right, I don't know.
I have
Go ahead, Bob.
They schedule the basin group meetings on an as-needed basis, typically once a quarter. Sometimes they're in Ross, sometimes they're, I mean, there's 83 different places that it could be, depending on who, you know, northern basin, southern basin. But, you know, it would be within your basin, which is the lower Ohio, Gertie's Run Basin. So,
Are they days or evenings?
it varies. Typically, they're like at 6 o'clock, but I've seen them as early as 3. There would be a schedule, and that would be on the Three Rivers Wet Weather website. And I don't know what that schedule is right now for the basin groups. I know what the schedule is for the engineers group meetings, and that's typically at 9 in the morning, once a month, once every 2 months. So
Wait, the 9 in the morning or once every 2 months?
that's for the engineers group.
Okay.
But for the basin group, they try to make it so that council people or staff don't have to attend a meeting during the day. It would be in the evening. So again, they're typically held quarterly.
Now back to my thought, we should make a motion now, just can it wait till council meeting?
Yeah, I don't think we're in any harm by when we go to council meeting. I'll try to get that scheduled again.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
A fair chance. Okay. Lynn?
No, I'm just saying, I don't see where it is on their site. I'm looking under municipalities, and to give you an idea of what tab it is, I'd be able to look, I don't see it on here, so it's not obvious.
Thanks. If you want.
I can just email.
I used to
say
say that
for
for
last
3
time.
years. But that's been a few years. So, okay, so the next one, code enforcement, that motion for tonight, or is it necessary?
I'd like to have Jim speak.
Okay, Jim, code enforcement?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. President. The only thing on our agenda tonight, and you all should have a copy of this in front of you, an ordinance from 2010, ordinance 1006 on removal of snow and ice from the sidewalks in the borough. I want to suggest, and we discussed this in public safety, that section 6, which I have highlighted in your packets, be removed from this ordinance. The reason being, it's pretty redundant with what we have under the International Property Maintenance Code. Back in 2010, the reason we needed this ordinance was to come up with a solution where every time it snowed, we didn't have to send letters out to the property owners. Under anything in the International Property Maintenance Code, including the addendum pertaining to sidewalks and snow, you are required to send a letter giving a notice each time it snows. So if it snows, and for instance this year, we know what it's been like. For instance, I sent out 99 letters in 4 days, 2 weeks ago. Somewhat ridiculous. That only touches, I think that was 12 streets in the borough of Bellevue. Of those 99 letters, we have to follow up. We have to take photographs. We have to issue citations to take them to court. By that time, it's June and July. The reason I wanted this taken out, and the reason we wanted this to begin with, is so that we wouldn't have to go through all this. I think 2 solicitors ago, there was a mistake made where in section 6, they took almost verbatim section 107 of the International Property Maintenance Code and added that to this ordinance. Apparently they felt it was necessary. Now, certainly, we will defer to the solicitor on this, to check on this, but I do know, I have talked to some people that say that they do have ordinances in other municipalities. And once it's an ordinance, it can be, not only myself, but it can also be, for instance, the chief and I talk about this. An ordinance is an ordinance, and it can be followed up by police department, by code enforcement. It really doesn't matter. I like the International Property Maintenance Code. So, if we take this out, we automatically relieve my office of issuing 100 letters, sometimes 200, 300 in the snow season and the winter season. Not as easy with grass. Grass is typically, you have to send them one every time the grass grows more than 6 inches. But certainly it's a lot easier to handle and get a grip on than it is with something like snow. Just when you put the shovel back, here it comes again. So rather than the borough spend $500 to $1,000 on postage each month to let grown adult property owners in the borough of Bellevue remind them to shovel their lots, I think is a little bit ridiculous. And if we can, again, deferring to the solicitor, I would like to see that section of this ordinance removed.
And I talked to Jim prior to the meeting. This is the first I've seen it. So I'm going to look at any legal issues surrounding removal of notice, see what my other communities do with regard to that, and I'll be able to report back at the next meeting as to whether or not there's any legal problems with that.
Mark, I have a comment. Jim, in other words, you send this letter out, by the time they get it, if they do respond, the snow's melted, you have to to send?
We have to give them approximately 72 hours for delivery of the mail. We have to give them, now, in the ordinance, we can give them 24 hours. We don't have to give them 7 days to do with grass or constructive methods or anything to that effect. But in itself, you're looking at 4 or 5 days down the road. And certainly, you have 1 or 2 days in the 40s or 50s, and you got to take a photograph of the dry sidewalk and take it to the court to move on.
Did you have to send a separate letter each time it snowed?
We did. We did try sending a letter at the beginning of the season. And what I would put in that letter is that this may be the only notice you get from the code enforcement office for the next few months. In other words, I was trying to get them used to the fact that every time it snows, don't wait 3 or 4 days for wind to come. Now, so many people, and I'm sure y'all are tired of hearing this, actually so am I ad nauseum, that 80% of these properties are rental properties and they are habitual properties. These people know how to play the game. They know that once they receive the letter, they have time to sit on their laurels. They'll come to court, come up with 100 different excuses as to why the snow wasn't shoveled. It snowed in Fox Chapel, but they certainly didn't know it snowed in Bellevue. Or they were in Florida for a 2-week vacation. Just, again, things that we shouldn't have to suffer for, especially on properties that aren't owner-maintained here in the borough. Again, we have a lot of rental properties, and we have to send letters, in some cases out of state, for the fact that we have snow on our sidewalks.
And this is to the solicitor then. If we wait until the March meeting, winter's going to be over, can we entertain a motion to amend this ordinance?
With your process, it's going to take you a while anyway, because you have to go through 3 readings. I mean, what you guys go through, your procedural process to pass ordinances is it's time consuming. So this is not something that you're going to implement now, really with the intent of enacting it this year. It's probably for the future to try and correct the problem that's now being recognized at the end of February. You know, if you wanted this to be this year, probably need to start this process in October, and then you would have had it in place. So I don't think it's realistic anyway. And I wouldn't want to push this. I mean, especially dealing with a notice issue. I want to look at it. I want to make sure, you know, because there's other issues going on there. If you remove the notice, then your enforcement becomes strictly citation, and that can, you know, if you're filing with the magistrate, that can become costly too. So I don't think the intent is. I mean, I assume you're still going to send letters or try and do verbal warnings instead of just filing.
In some cases, here's one thing that I found that works. Again, we were told 1 or 2 solicitors ago that it wasn't legally binding in court. I find an argument with that because according to the IBMC, you can hand deliver a notice, you can placard a property or post a property, or you can mail it first class or certified. We have pink door hangers. They're bright pink. They have a little tag on the bottom of them, similar to the old parking tags they used to have in the borough. I've been told that they're not legal in court. If somebody, if push came to shove, I don't believe that. Again, to me, that's putting a notice on somebody's door. Unless you tape it, and that's what they're saying. That could blow away, and they'll come home from work and they won't see it. However, 95% of the time when I have utilized those, they work.
Right.
Somebody comes home, they see that tag on the door. I ask them to remove the snow within 24 hours, and 95% of the time it gets done. So, again, that is maintaining somebody out on that street for practically 8, 16, 24 hours, depending on 2 or 3 days in a row, to hit the properties we need to.
So this is really geared to that other 5%. I mean, you're still going to go through that same process that clears up.
I think it's
95%.
inevitable that you'll never rid
You're
yourself
saying,
of that
I agree
process.
with you.
There are going to be people that take you to task, then they're going to want to appeal that downtown, and certainly for a $50 or $100 fine, it's not cost feasible for the borough to entertain them.
I agree with you. I just, like I said, I think to answer your question, I just would like to.
Wait a minute, maybe create a new ordinance.
I'm going to look at this at least for next meeting, and I'll be able to report back as to the issues involved with this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, what would the process be and how would landlords be notified? If you're putting it on a doorknob, you can put it on a doorknob
because you call your landlord, they're going to say, ground shovel, get out and shovel the lawn. Most people feel that they're immune from, that they shouldn't have to do that because they're paying rent. The reason they do that is so they don't have to maintain grass and snow and all that. There is some verbiage in the IPMC. Again, some people will take you to task on it. It says, if you are in control of that property, if you have a tenant that lives at one of your properties, he ultimately, we can go to him and cite him in the court as well. 98% of the time, he'll throw that out. They'll say, Your Honor, there's nothing in my lease that says I have to shovel a wall. I don't care if somebody falls on my landlord's property. It's not my property. So you're going to run into that. The door hangers and all really only work on single-family homes. And they work well in that aspect. When it comes to landlords and all, yeah, I think you still have to come up with a letter method. I would like to see maybe one letter at the beginning of the year. Some municipalities demand that all property owners that do not live in the area supply the code office or the administrative office with a phone number and a person that is responsible for maintaining the property.
But do we have that at all?
We do not.
Because I know whenever I had my property in Ross, they actually, with the building inspector, I had to give them my name and contact information. So I think we need to start that. I think, well, of course, we're supposed to be starting on an email. I know when 2 years ago or so, I brought that up. But, okay, what would the process be now? Okay, if we take this out, okay, this doesn't discriminate against absent, landlords that don't live there and one-family homes. So is taking this out really going to rectify the problem? What is the process going to be then, if we take this out?
Well, again, that's why we have to defer to the solicitor on this. What I'm telling you, and I know other municipalities have come up with different ways to skin this cat. 99 letters in 5 days is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And of the 11 citations I have in court, if Section 6 had been taken out, or we were allowed to take Section 6 out, I would have 53 citations in court. Instead, I can only have 11 because 11 letters were sent to those 11. I understand what the solicitor is saying. Certainly, Tara Smith doesn't want to be inundated with 150 hearings. But what's it going to take to get the people in this town to wake up, to realize that, it's not like the old days when we shoveled our walk and your neighbor's walk. They'd rather call and complain and moan about it, and I understand that. I understand that from their standpoint. Certainly, again, I think the problem lies with absentee landlords and property owners that well know that it snowed in Bellevue, if it snowed in Fox Chapel.
Okay, I don't disagree with you, but I think we need to, you can't just take it out and then, you want to do 2 different processes. I think you need to have, it needs to be more explanatory. Okay?
I don't mind.
If you're going to say, okay, if they don't live in the property, this is the proper process. If, they live in the property, because there are single-family homes that are rental as well. If they don't live in the property, if they live in the property, this is the way. If they don't live in the property, this is the way we're going to do it. I don't think taking out the paragraph is really going to...
Oh, we've tried a few different things. Mainly, when this ordinance first came out in 2010, we sent out courtesy letters. Not only courtesy letters, but we told them they could view this ordinance online if there were any questions. All of those letters went out initially to rental properties, homes. The following year, we were a little kinder by sending one letter out, say in December. If it snowed another 10 inches 3 weeks later in January, I cited it into court. And of course, you'd have the people show up and say, I shoveled when you sent me the letter on December 8th. You didn't send me a letter on January 10th, so I didn't shovel. Because I didn't know I had to. These are the problems, again, and you're always going to have them. They're not going to go away. But if we can take a bite out of them, if we can find some sort of happy medium.
But we need to be specific. I don't think we can...
And I understand that. That's why, again, deferring all this discussion.
Just to add what we do in the police department for certain situations, we have warning tags. We issue a warning tag for an offense.
That's the first, only and last time you get warned. It's recorded, it's there forever. And if someone in the same circumstance of snow removal, if that person at 123 Lincoln Avenue, I don't know if they offend anybody, but is warned in 2013, there's no reason why in 2014 they need to be warned again. They get a citation. And in 2015, they get another citation. That's what we do in the police department. You get one warning. You know, it's a one bite of the apple.
It's sort of like the law reverses itself and changes year to year.
And I think
If you're aware of it in 2011, then you're aware of it in 2012.
I think code enforcement could follow suit with something similar to that too, like the warning books, warning tags that we use. You know, you send that to the landlord, property owner, what have you, they get an infraction notice that says, you're not paying anything on this one, it's a warning, don't do it again. Don't remove the snow again, and you start paying fines.
Vince, perfect.
That sounds somewhat of a good solution. The only thing I see against that is if you get a new property owner, 3 years later buys the property, then that warning, they're saying, I never had a warning.
Oh, well,
We do hear that too.
And each case is different. Certainly, I'm not going to press somebody when in fact they are a little bit ignorant about the ordinance. We wanted to know for the future. We're not here to rake everybody over the coals that doesn't jump outside with a shovel 12 hours after it quits snowing. We're here to get these habitual property owners that thumb their nose yearly at the borough of Bellevue and say, let somebody else do it, it's not our problem.
No, I was just gonna say, I'll bring it back next month. I'm gonna look at this and then I'll be able to bring it back.
And again,
next
I
meeting.
think we're a little late in the year, so
Yeah.
this is gonna come to fruition in 2015, but if we can come to some better conclusion at that time.
Paul?
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're coming back with, whether you're just coming back with taking that section out. But I agree with Linda. I think that we have to be specific in our ordinance as to what the policy is and the procedure and how we're going to notify and sign and all that. I think we have to be a little more specific than this really comes down to. If we take this out, then what? I think there has to be some work done on that. Maybe don't reinvent the wheel, take a look at the other municipalities, see what's, but we have to be specific.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so, thank you, Jim. Anything else, Jim?
No, sure, that's all.
All right. Here comes the committee chair reports. Finance. Captain.
We have one motion tonight we'd like to make is to approve the proposal for professional services for phase 2 of the streetscape design in the amount of $24,250 to CDC.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the proposal for professional services for phase 2 of the streetscape design services in the amount of $24,250. Discussion on this motion. Linda.
Okay. First of all, almost $25,000. I think that we're here to represent the taxpayers of this borough. And if this was any other contract, people would be screaming foul all over the place. I believe that we need to put an RFP out as we do for any other contract. Whoever gets it, gets it. I don't have a problem with the present person if we put some things in the contract. This is, I think that, it would eliminate any impropriety because the design architect and his wife has supported and contributed to the councilperson's campaign and for 2 public positions. And then also there are some relationships with a few other council people. So I think this would eliminate any questions by putting out an RFP. Also, all bids, this particular time, all bids came over budget. Also, I would request that we do what is being recommended to us by the county, that we choose our scope, and then, so that, make sure, that it's under, and then have alternative bids. because the last time, all of our bids were over budget big time, and the lowest was 20% over budget, and that's a big error. And I think, and then it also put more work on DPW, and DPW has a lot of work to do just on their own. So, and as for having to do it right away, it's no problem with the county for us to do that. He feels that there should be minimal engineering. I talked to the manager of business development at the county, and he said even with doing an RFP, that we should be able to get this done by summer/fall of 2014. So there is no reason to take the time that we need to eliminate any kind of finger pointing and actually do an RFP, which is our obligation to the taxpayers of this borough.
Anybody else? No? Okay. I have something to say, but I want to ask Brad, do you have anything to talk about that you want to describe the fees and the bid you put out?
I'll just,
You can do it from there.
just to be clear on this, as far as the total cost, what you'll see in there is 2.1 and 2.3 are the design and the bid documentation. 2.3 is construction-related services. So basically what that is, that's construction administration, and that is based on time and materials. So depending on what we find or what happens during construction, that number could be 1,000, it could be, and what we do is we try to put a number, the maximum number that could happen. And if you look under that, I believe I said I anticipated basically 60 hours for construction-related services, plus some of the other stuff for RFIs and such on there. So that's basically my assumption of what may happen. If it goes smoothly, smoothly, we don't have any problems and everything works good and the contractor does a great job, then that number is going to be significantly less. The other side of that is, well, I'm not even going to get into some of these things, but there's benefits. Living in Bellevue, I'm not charging any time for mobile time. So it's when I'm on site, that's what you get charged for. So if I'm there an hour, versus some other consultants that will charge travel time and such on there. And I think, you could probably ask John, are these numbers representative of what you would see out there? Are they out of line? And I would say that, knowing and having the experience makes it a lot easier, and understanding the whole process, the design process, not just what we have on paper now. It's the whole process, what the community wants, what the whole, and that's what the whole Allegheny Together program is based on. This is not a streetscape just what the council wants. This isn't the streetscape I want. This is what the community wants, and that's what's important. So to pull someone else in at this time, you can do it, but I would be shocked that if the prices were lower, and so that's fine. But in general, there's a lot of work that goes into these as far as being kind of simple. There's nothing simple about a set of construction drawings. When you go into bid documents, you're down to the square foot of concrete and such. And as far as projects going over budget, I'm not a contractor, and very few engineers, landscape architects, professionals, design professionals in general are contractors. So what we take is an opinion of probable cost. Okay, so what that means is from our information and what we've done in the past, this is what we feel that it's going to cost. So when it goes out to bid, we have no control over, they may be from far away, mobility, there's all kinds of factors into it. The cost of materials go up from the last project we worked on. So that is very difficult, and if you ask any other design professional, they will agree with that as well. Now the benefit that we have going forward is that we do have all of the bid forms from the last contract. So we have a better understanding of exactly what the cost per concrete is square foot, linear foot of curbing, trees, whatever it is. So that's what we use as a basis. And as we always do, we do have bid alternates in there. And the intention was that we'd be able to add to it. In this case, we had to take some off. And that's what we worked with Ron and Public Works, and it was something as simple thing of, hey, can you remove that pole to save us $500? That's not out of the scope of what anyone else does on any other project. So, you know, that's as far as being over budget on everything. You know, you can't really blame a designer for that, and it's not like we were double the cost. It was I don't even know what the percentage was, but so I think that's, I mean, if anyone has any other detailed questions on specific inclusions of what this will get you, you know, let me know and I'll answer any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Brent?
There was a suggestion made earlier that maybe we have a deadline, penalties built in if deadlines weren't met. I would be curious as to what the consensus of council is on something like that. That, to me, that makes perfect sense. We set a deadline of August 1st, and if certain goals are not met by then a fine is demanded. Okay? Kathy?
I'm all for that if the delay is their fault.
I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
As we heard, there were circumstances that happened that were beyond perhaps their control.
So, Ron, is that something that can be done with, or it can be reworked and penalties established in case certain deadlines are not met? That way everybody has a schedule to work towards and we don't get bogged down in endless conversations and accusations and finger pointing.
I believe we absolutely.
Now, is that something, who would set that up? Who would get the word?
Yeah, I'm assuming that we would work together and help us.
Now, does that works both ways? I mean, I've never worked under that situation, and like I said, with the design process, there's a lot of things that go, and I really have, personally, I have better things to do with my time than to say, hey, you didn't email me back, you owe me $50. So it's one of those things where, and I agree, I mean, I'm fine with it, and like I said, my goal, and my goal from the beginning, talking with John Jaquila with the COG, was that this project would be out to bid by the end of March, and that allows us to, the contractor for phase 1 will be on site, and the idea is to keep construction rolling. So that being said, it's going to be tough to meet that deadline, and I will do everything I can to make that deadline, and I can assure you it won't be my fault because of not getting the work done in a timely manner. But there's also a lot of things that contribute to that, final design decisions and things like that need to be, that I need to be given guidance and approval on to say, okay, move forward. So if you want to include some things in there, I'm fine with doing it. It's just, it's going to add, I don't know, it's going to add some complications to things.
Well, I would be very clear. I mean, I would never suggest sort of draconian sort of penalties where it's like, you can send an email, you get a fine. I would set something up more on a layered system where if you haven't done something, we would provide you some written notice to say, hey, you haven't done this, you know, you need to cure this within 10, 15, 30 days, whatever we come up with. And if you still neglect to do that, then it becomes an issue. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't have something where it's just like, if you don't comply, there's a penalty. There would clearly have to be some sort of system that would be fair to you to say, hey, you know, from the borough's perspective, hey, you know, we're having a problem here because of your timing. And if you still neglect and you take that letter and throw it in the trash and then we have an issue, that's where we have a problem. I mean, I wouldn't want to put a heavy burden on you to be nervous about, hey, I didn't respond or I didn't send an email. Am I going to get, you know, something in the mail saying they want, you know, fine. That wouldn't be fair to you, and I don't think that's council's intent. I think council's intent is if there is something that becomes an issue and you're notified of that, if it is you, you know, that's awarded, you know, then we would have a process to be able to take some action.
I'm totally fine with that. That's simple, that's basic. We'll probably be done with the project before we get a notice. I mean, that's the intent, is we have a month and a half. You know, that's the plan, is to get this thing done as soon as possible. And I think that's my goal. That's, I hope, everyone else's goal. And if we all work together towards that goal, I can't see why we can't make it happen. So.
Okay, any other questions?
I didn't.
Tom?
do it by summer or fall. We have to look out for the money of the people of this borough. It's, you know, if it was our money, and it was almost $25,000, I mean, would you not go and look at other contractors to see what the cost is? I mean, I know I would. In fact, I'd be going to a couple of them. And so that's my thought. I treat the people's money like my money, and for $25,000, I think it's a whole heck of a lot of money. And a month or 6-week delay to me is nothing when it comes to making sure we're doing the best, getting the best price for our taxpayers.
Well, a couple of things I have to say. One, the impression I get from the county and from LA together and COG is that we don't have time to waste or to start over. That's the very clear impression I get. Second, sometimes you lose more money trying to start over than you do carrying on what we're doing right now. And it's the people's money you're talking about. The people probably have all this time to like to get this project done. And getting it done in the end and being efficient and doing the things we're supposed to do also are favorable to the county and to our future of more funding. Okay? I've heard a whole long list of reasons from you, Linda. I appreciate what you, no, I don't appreciate it, but I hear what you're saying. That first it's the $25,000, it's the need that we need to bid again, it's the improprieties that took place, it's this that took place.
I didn't say the improprieties.
Well, that's one of the reasons.
Place.
Okay, whatever it may be.
Okay, but, I mean, I have it in writing from the manager of business development that it's no problem for us to put this out to bid. And, I mean, I have it in writing.
I think it is.
You know, so,
I was talking, so I'll finish first.
So, I'm sorry.
Okay. Regardless of different opinions, I think it's in our best interest to proceed. And we don't, I'm understanding that we don't have, this was bid through the COG, so we're not needed to put out for RFPs. So you're asking why did we stop doing RFPs? It's not in this procedure right now, it's not required. So that's an, I hope that answers your question, if I'm saying that right.
No, I said, when do we stop?
Well, you're saying that we need to send out RFPs and actually be done.
No, but, I mean, what does it matter if the COG is doing it or if we're doing it? It's all the taxpayers' money. It's a lot of money, $25,000.
Can you imagine when we rebid this, how much time it's going to take?
Maybe 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, according to, this is the manager of business development. I mean, I'm sure he knows more than me. He does this all the time.
Okay, well, if there's not any other questions, okay.
I just have a clarification. I believe we all want to be wise stewards of everybody's money, but this is not Bellevue taxpayer. I mean, in essence it is, but this is state money that is given to the county, that is given to us. And they give a certain amount for this design phase. So the first phase was $40,000. So even if somebody came in at $20,000, we don't get to keep the other $20,000. It's a $40,000 that's given us. This has been given to us for $24,500. So even if somebody came in at $10,000, we don't get that extra money. So we want to be wise stewards, but just to clarify that with everybody, it's not a Bellevue money per se, and it is what it is. We're going to get this much money, and if we come in under budget, we're not going to get that money. So I just want to clarify that with everybody.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, this will be.
I mean, so if it comes in $2,000 or $3,000 less, that means there's another community that could use that money. It doesn't matter if we don't get it. I mean, it goes to somebody else. And to me, our money is county money, state money, federal money. It's all our money. And if everybody felt like that, we would get less projects done.
Well, right now, we're doing this project, so I think we need to make this get done. So I will ask anybody in favor of this motion, say aye. Nays?
Are we going to have this revised, have penalties built in?
Oh, okay. Sorry about that, Hannah. Yeah. So how do we need to amend this motion? I don't know how to work that.
Could we amend the motion? I don't like the word penalties as much as clarifying the expectation and the deadlines with possible ramifications if they're not met. it's really clarifying expectations, right, Henry, is what you're saying?
Right, and if those expectations are met, then it will
Right.
be a penalty.
These certain penalties apply, so it has to
I
handle.
mean, it is what it is.
So we want to make this
And it's
motion
our fault that there's no penalty.
contingent upon,
Drafting of the clarification expectations clause by the solicitor.
does that work with you guys? Okay, so we have, do we need to amend this sheet? Okay, you're amending the
Yeah,
sheet.
I-
Okay, amending the motion. Can we have a second on that?
Mr. Bodowski was the second.
Sorry. Okay, I'm losing track. Okay. All those in favor of the amended motion, say aye. Nay?
Nay.
Roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Document this.
Mrs. Coder.
Aye.
Mr. Halbling. Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mr. Menosky.
Aye.
Mr. Siziani.
Aye.
Mr. Sandvisky. Mrs. Washner.
Nay.
Motion carries 6 ayes, 1 nay.
Okay. Next on finance.
Yeah, we want to announce, I guess we've been talking about BDAC, and we have reinstituted that committee. And it's no longer called BDAC, it's really more of a downtown district planning meeting. And the program has changed somewhat, but we are having a meeting tomorrow night, February 12th, 2014, at 6 p.m. at Frankfurters.
Wasn't that 6:30?
6:30, right, where we did that. On the agenda, it says 6, but it's 6:30.
When will the next meeting be?
After this,
Yeah.
I don't know, we're going to decide that tomorrow.
Okay.
But we'll let you know.
Okay. That's it for finance? Any questions for finance? Okay, next. Parks and Rec, Lynn is not here.
I would like to just make one, I don't have her agenda, but there was one item I'd like to cover for Parks and Rec.
Okay.
Councilwoman Heffley and myself and a contractor visited the library on Friday to assess some of the immediate needs, some of the intermediate needs, and some of the long-term needs of repair of the building. Immediate needs for the purpose of getting the library prepared for the centennial celebration. Things like painting, patching of floors in more dangerous areas. There are some areas with the radiators are emitting unsafe amount of heat. I'll be getting to council a little more about the results of those, but we did have a contractor come in and take a look at it for the smaller tasks. Considering that the money may not make it here in time for the centennial celebration. I just want to let the council know that happened. We're waiting for the matriculation of paperwork, and I'll have to go report at the council meeting at the end of the month.
Okay, thank you.
Mark, I have a couple of things to focus on. We had been given the phase 3 of the street, or the skate plaza by John, and I took that to John Schomburg for Three Rivers Low Weather because there are several green pieces in that, and he's going to run that through their rainways and come back and give us some recommendation for what we can do with greening that, and that also will help our wet weather plan and our reduction. So I think that'll be really helpful. So that's one thing. And then the other thing, I met with David Farkas from the History and Landmarks, and they have I guess it's an engineer, construction project manager, who he's checking into seeing if he'll come over and look at our library, because it is a landmark building, and see what they can look at and give us recommendations on what needs to get done with that building. And then we can have a whole plan together for the library.
Thank you. Anything else from Parks and Rec? Okay, that's good. Good stuff. Okay, next, Public Works.
We have no motions. Are there any questions for me? Okay, that's my report.
Thank you. Public Safety, Jim?
Yeah, the motion to reinstate the collection of parking fee intermeters on Saturdays.
Is that motion for tonight or
mean, my understanding, the way we're sitting, we're not having any motions on this right now, we're just gonna do discussion, you know, sort of, you know, pre-council discussion on it, put it on the agenda if there's, if there's an appropriate reason to, and then vote on it at the next meeting.
Okay.
We had a public comment about keeping the free parking for Saturdays, and I'm all for that, but did anyone do any kind of research, or is there any documentation on how much we're making on these Saturdays, and is that the reason we're gonna be charging the fee again? Do we know how much we're bringing in?
It's really hard to say. People will still put some in on Saturdays, just out of habit. They see the meter, they put it in. There's no real numbers there, and that's really not the reason we're proposing it. I proposed it at the Public Safety Committee meeting. It has to do with traffic flow or parking flow. Okay, I'll let the chief, he's done a little work on that. Let him speak.
I just wanted to know where it came from.
Right.
The Saturday, Sunday, free parking, essentially, it hurts the businesses. Essentially what we have now is a free weekend parking in our lots. If someone can park on a Friday night and don't have to move their vehicles Monday morning, we have no ability to move them. We don't know if they're shopping. We don't know where they're at. They could be a resident. They just park on Friday night. Don't move till they go to work Monday morning on the borough's dime. Saturday gives us the ability to help the businesses keep those vehicles flowing, moving. That's why parking meters are in place to help the businesses, not hurt them. It's not our goal to make them pay a quarter or give them a parking ticket. It's to get them to know, go do your business, or put the proper amount of money in a meter. Let's keep moving, keep it going. That is the goal. And essentially what we've created by not enforcing meters on Saturdays is a free-for-all parking that we have no enforcement on.
Yeah, the parking in Bellevue is a quarter for an hour. Downtown, it's a quarter for 5 minutes. So we're not trying to, beat up on the business patrons and that. And I don't think it hurts the businesses. I think it helps the businesses because of the flow of parking.
I'm sorry.
I was one of the proponents of that. I just don't think that it's not business friendly. Has anybody talked to the businesses to get their feedback about this? I mean,
They were the ones that asked us that 2-hour parking. Well, we only had 1-hour parking at one time. This was about 8 years ago when we changed it from 1-hour parking to 2-hour parking. They said that's enough so people can shop when they go to lunch or whatever. But this is helping the flow. That's why do you think the city has it downtown? For the same reason. Sometimes you want to draw people in around Christmas time, which we do, and things. But other than that, it's to keep the people moving rather than having people using it as park here and go downtown type of thing. We have 2-hour parking here, and it just helps the businesses by keeping. Actually, it stops some of the businesses from parking in front of their own place because you're at a 2-hour limit, and they hurt themselves. But that's they're also hurting the neighbor's business by parking in the part-time park. So it keeps the parking flows important.
been 8 years ago, there are many different businesses in the last 8 years. I'd really like to know what the businesses have to say about this. I mean, and to compare it to the city of Pittsburgh, there really isn't a comparison there to say, okay, well, the city charges this much. You go other places, and it's 25 cents an hour, other places too. And quite frankly, not that many people knew that it was free parking on Saturday because we didn't put any notifications on the meters. So there were a lot of people that didn't know. Because there was nothing for people to know, oh gee, we got free parking on Saturdays, other than the businesses telling them it. I just can't see how it will help. I need convincing on that, and I'd like to know what the businesses have to say. 8 years ago and now are kind of like.
Essentially, what could happen now is every resident in Bellevue could park in lot 1 right here on Friday night.
Right.
And we have no control to move them.
But it's not
close to the church. I just don't think that they should have the ability to park there all weekend.
As Linda suggested, that people are already in the habit of paying 25 cents because it wasn't a free, notice saying it was free for a while. And I would say 25 cents. Because they're already in the habit of putting 25 cents in.
What about those who know now that it's free parking and they?
They know.
No, okay, but the people that it's gonna change, I mean, now we have to train them and say, okay, well, now it's not free parking on Saturday, because it's been like that for like 2 years.
Well, then I think we go back to what the chief was saying, you give a warning. This is no longer free parking on Saturday. If that car returns the following weekend, you give a ticket. We're only talking 25 cents, 50 cents, we're not breaking people.
No, oh, no, parking tickets like what, $15 or something like that?
Well, I think they within a 5-day window, it's $5 for a meter. And that's not my goal. I just want to see cars moving the way they should on a Saturday.
Henry, did you have something else to say? No? Okay. Anybody else on this one?
Well, I guess also if we have free parking, as the chief was saying, on the weekend, it's possible to do a park and ride at the expense of the businesses. I can park my car on Main Street, catch the bus, go downtown for a while, and come back on the car, sit there. With the consequence.
Too many, thank you. And then Linda, do anybody try to get a parking spot on Saturday? On Main Street?
I haven't had a problem, so I don't know.
Would you shop there on Saturday?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it does get tough. I don't know, it's a.
Is this strictly for the lots or also the meters on the avenue?
I think it's for everywhere, it's what I'm getting.
Any meter?
Well, I guess we'll leave it at that in part of this. Yeah, better ideas. Talk about this next meeting. No other discussion? Okay. One thought I have when you're asking about businesses, the only thing I think of is to send out a letter to the business and ask them, but at the same time, I don't know if they're really noticing that. So the thing is, maybe the letter states the two sides of 2 points of view. One, you're losing opportunity because of this, or two, you feel it's the other way around. I don't know. That's something to think about for next week if you want to ask for a survey. I'll think about it now. What I'm saying is that question on that letter wouldn't be just, do you think it's good to have free parking? You'd have to say, here's the two views of free parking. A, good, and here's the downside. What do you feel?
I guess the downside is that owner is parking in front of the spot for free.
Right.
Of course, that's a downside.
Right. So I mean, I think that's the only way, it's one way to do the survey, other than just to go around and ask the question. Because most people can say, no, I don't want to pay a meter, because I don't want to see the meter pay. But not knowing that the fact that they're losing sometimes in the long run. Anyway, that's my thought. Okay. What else from public safety? Jim?
Motion to approve William Hartman's attendance at the Fire Department Instructors Conference in Indianapolis, Indiana, in April 2014 at a cost of $3,114.74. Budget item 01.411.461.
We're not moving on, we're just talking about it. Does anybody have any discussion on this?
Has anybody looked into almost $300 a night, if there's a way of reducing that?
You were.
Yeah, Mr. Hartman and Jeff Wisner attended the Public Safety Committee meeting to reconcile the numbers. There were a couple of points made, and Councilman Leonard, please correct me if I stray from any of them. The first issue was Mr. Hartman had only identified about $2,500 worth of expense of his $3,114.74 request. The difference is the classes which he attends at that conference. So that's what reconciles. Basically, he gets there, he's paying registration, he's paying hotel, he's paying, I don't know, but he's not paying for the classes. He left $600 there for the classes he wants to attend. item 2 that was made is that this is a chance within budget, within the budget, to attend national training with national instructors that far exceeds any training they could get in Western Pennsylvania. So the return for the $3,000, in the opinion of both Jeff Wisner and Mr. Hartman, is that it benefits the borough substantially more. Item 3, Mr. Hartman does not charge mileage or meals while he's out there. As his concession, he takes care of all training, all travel costs to get there and to eat, because he recognizes that this is a burden and wishes to attend this national thing. As far as the hotel, they made the point that most of the less expensive hotels are outside of they say a 5-block area that we identified. When you're going to this training, you've got to carry around the heavy gear. It's part of attending the training. And to go outside of a circle of 5 blocks, you're talking about a real burden to ride mass transit and not shuttles, or to ride in some way and not walk to the conference. So that being said, it becomes a real extra task to lug the heavy fire equipment around to this summer. I believe that's most of the summary of reasons for attending. And Mr. Leonardo and Mr. Siziani, if you would help me if there's anything else I missed. But the big picture is this is an ability to get national instruction at a little more than a regional cost. These instructors aren't available. These are, in some cases, world-renowned.
So can you break that down into what's what? X amount for this, X
Okay,
amount?
sure. There was a detail, if I recall off of my head. On the 3114, going backwards, 600 of that is for the classes that Mr. Hartman will take while he's there. $500 is the cost of the conference itself. So you're at $1,100, so you're back down to $2,000. I believe he's there for 5 days. 1,500 of that, I believe, roughly, is the hotel. And I'm still missing $600. I apologize. But everything else is itemized on there. I don't recall the last item. I apologize.
Okay. Any questions on that?
Inspector, if you did half the hotel cost, as opposed for, what, $300 a month? You could get
It
one
was
for
like $285.
You could get one for $150. If you did that, plus you probably could get a shuttle, so it wouldn't be that he has to walk 4 blocks, 5 blocks. There's shuttles. We probably can, for that whole package, if we did for $150 a room, we probably get him a plane ticket there, and so he wouldn't have to drive his car.
But he has all that equipment to.
The big thing was the equipment.
Every day.
How much?
Why is that put on the shuttle?
75 pounds. They don't always have shuttles. I mean, the smaller hotels, the cheaper hotels.
Plus, I think you'd be paying extra airfare to carry it. I think he actually made that point.
And he's not charging for his miles anyway.
He's not charging for his mileage or his meals. Everything else, it's purely conference cost. And actually, as much as I hate to say this, I'd like to get this motion today because the conference is in April. We're holding reservations, but again, if we need to cancel, we need to cancel to avoid penalty.
Mark,
Yes.
Actually, in a case like this, it's, with training like this, the benefits actually outweigh the cost.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And we have the money in the budget.
All right,
So
good
I'll make a
points.
motion to approve Bill Hartman going to this conference.
We have a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded to approve the conference with Bill Hartman. For the fire department's instructors conference. All those in favor say aye. Nays? Motion passes. We need a roll call.
It is dollars, yes.
activities at the same time, or we should warn them or something.
A lot of times with Miller Funeral Home, they talk to me. I think Michelle has some provisions in there for Miller Funeral Home in the proposal. And I think the same could be done for any other person that has any function. I know I talked about my church is in the middle of that block between Fremont and Bellevue, like across the street from Miller's, and we're being accommodated too, so we can get out of there in plenty of time for that to start. So I think we've worked before with it. It doesn't seem to be a real problem, although Miller's not happy about it, but so far you just can't plan funerals, around. So I think she has provisions in there to let people know.
Andrew, was your name up before? Okay. Anybody else on this? Okay, so we'll be discussing that. So that's a big weekend, the celebration for the library and then for the car cruise. That's a big one. Good. Okay, time for public
No,
contribution.
I have to do business.
Oh, you do have business? I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay. Now that because of our change in meeting schedule, now we have 2 voting meetings. I'm asking that we put on the agenda when we're going to vote on everything. I mean, I think I would like to know ahead, when we're going to discuss something and vote on it the same day, and when we're going to discuss it and vote on it in 2 weeks.
I think it always was that way up until right now. I mean, it did say, it would usually say for what date of the meeting. So if we could go back to that, we'll do. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, we don't
Yeah, because
know.
I didn't know it was there, so.
I mean, it's just too hard to be prepared.
Okay, good point, thank you. Anything else? Anybody? No? Okay, time for public contribution. Please.
I was just gonna sit at the seat. Okay, under the logic of the no parking on Saturdays, it goes like this. If you don't agree that this, bringing in businesses, so when the holiday comes, we don't do the free parking for the holidays, because it doesn't help the business district. Right? It doesn't help. I mean, I can park there from Thanksgiving and stay there till New Year's. The second thing is, people are creatures of habits. If they have someone who parks Sunday through Friday, they're not going to say, oh, look at that parking lot, so I'm going to park there for free. Your business owners are only to pay $2 a day on Saturdays to park in front of the business, and they're still going to do it. You know the business owners that are doing it. We all know the business owners. It's $2 on Saturday for them to do it on Saturdays. This is not going to keep people moving. You're going to have to hire somebody. You really should promote that you have free parking after 6 and on weekends, and that will help the situation. It's only a quarter. Like I said, if your logic is it's not helping, or they come holidays, I don't expect it to be helping. I would expect some of them all to be parking down here in the parking lots. People are creatures of habits. They will park where they always park.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Tom Cody, 600 Maryland. Just want to mark this date in the annals of history. Jay and I agree with you 100%.
Oh, wait.
I do too.
We got it on film. I think, with all due respect, with the parking issue, I spend most of my Saturdays, morning and early afternoon. I do some business in Bellevue most every weekend, and I have never had a problem parking. One of the things I have noted, though, is how dead it is in our community on Saturdays. So, I mean, what I would promote and encourage you guys to consider adamantly is promoting the free parking on the weekends. Secondly, when it comes to business development, I think one of the things we need to keep in mind is that before we start charging people to come into the borough, we need to have a buzz, we need to have a critical mass of stuff happening in Bellevue on the weekends, Saturdays and Sundays. And if we were to get to the point where our business district is booming, then at that point, if we're worried about flow, then we can have the conversation about meters, and parking fees, and all that kind of stuff. But until you have a buzz, until you have a critical mass of customers, I think you're beating a dead horse, because you're just going to give one more reason not to come into the borough. Frankly, if you put parking meters enforce parking again on Saturday, I'm just gonna park here on Tees and walk in. I mean, it's a block. I just really think you need to think economically. And I do hear the flow issue, but I think you need a critical mass before you get to that concern. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Parking night. I have a suggestion. I think it's kind of a hybrid, maybe a hybrid solution, and I think this happens in a lot of other communities as well. But what you can look at is, I understand both sides of this. So you have two different problems, but what if we could, and I don't know if this is via ordinance or what it may be, but you have a 2-hour maximum parking on all metered parking. So what that means is on Saturday, even if you're not charging for it, the police department has the right or the ability to ticket anyone that's been sitting there for 2 hours. So anyone that parks their car and goes for 6 hours, they can still be ticketed for that. But that gives you the open whether you want to charge or you don't want to charge. Sunday, I mean, you can put it in effect Saturday, Monday, through Sunday, or you can even include Sunday, which again furthers it helps with the movement, but it also allows you the opportunity to do free parking however you may want to do that. And I know at the end of the day, you know, there's a lot of communities that determine that it's not worth charging by the time you pay someone to walk around and the little tiny fees you're going to get. You can still make sure people aren't staying there for more than 2 hours, but you're getting the action that everyone's talking about. So I think it's that's another option as far as kind of a hybridization of both of